Hello and welcome back to Junk Bucket Garage. Today we're going to work on this piece of junk again. This is the 97 Toyota 4Runner that we picked up super cheap because it had cracked heads. Got that all fixed. We've been driving it a lot. The thing runs great. Fixed a couple of holes in the roof there and put the stock wheels back on it. I've been driving it for a while now. I picked up another car, a Chevy Caprice. I've been driving that. My wife started driving this because she just loves 4Runners. But there's a few things she wants to address. One of which is the springs are sagging in the back. So the best way to fix that, of course, is to just go up with the whole truck because it is a four-wheel drive. Why not? So we're going to look at the cheapest 3-inch lift you can get for one of those. Put that on there and see what happens. The other thing that we're going to look at is congratulations to me and her. My wife is pregnant with my first child, and she does not want to drive around in California without all the penguin farts coming out of the vents, and this air conditioning system is not working. So we'll take a look at that and just, basically do nonsense today. Well, something you don't expect from an old clapped out four-wheel drive 4Runner is good ride quality. But let me tell you, these I think that's the third generation 4Runner style body, they got a good V6 in them. I mean, they run great. The four-wheel drive's amazing. This one happens to have that locking thing in the rear end that makes things happen. But the ride quality in this truck is really good. Surprisingly good. And that makes me not want to change everything. Has a couple of problems though. These trucks did have the springs in the back fatigued over time, and I think you can probably see what I'm talking about here. It's doing the old Carolina dog's got a poop thing, squatting down in the back. Hate that. And like I said, the ride quality is good, but the back of this truck is only this low because it's sitting on the bump stops. So the front end goes over a bump, it's fine. Everything, yeah, we're good. Then the back end hits that bump and oof, it's time for back surgery because that shoots it right up the old spinal cord there. So it definitely needed springs in the back for shizzle. I think you can see here, I mean, there is like no room. When you hit a bump, it hits right on that bump stop. Bang. Well, like I said, I don't want to change a lot, and of course this is Junk Bucket Garage, so we're going to take a look at the cheapest 3-inch lift kit we could find. Something I always like to do because I like to see results. I'll put a piece of tape and mark that mark right there is 3 feet. After we do the lifting, that should be 3 foot 3 inches. But something that I've learned over time, and I'm sure a lot of you people have too, a 3-inch lift doesn't necessarily lift at 3 inches. A 6-inch lift doesn't necessarily lift at 6 inches. So we'll see what actually happens here. There's my 3 foot mark on the front. Something else I got to address that we saw this morning is a flat tire. And these, you could tell they're good tires because they say good right on them. So we're going to see if we can do a little hillbilly fix on that. And let's get this thing up in the air, all right? I think with the 3-inch lift, you won't need to put bigger tires on it. Like these things is not super powerful, so bigger tires, you'd really need lower gears. You could probably get away with it if you didn't go too big, but it's fine. We're gonna dig in. Let's pull that. It got delivered. It's been sitting in the front yard for a while. Package out. It did not show up like that. Actually, it kind of did show up like that, all tore up. Anybody else having trouble with not just Prime delivery, but just delivery in general? Just sending you trash packages, man. I've had so many messed up stuff. Let me talk words and talking and stuff. I've had so many messed up packages delivered to my house lately, I've actually started complaining. Let me tell you, that's frustrating. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so this is from Rough Country. Obviously got it on the Amazon website. This is the cheapest 3-inch lift kit you could find for one of these 4runners. Let's see what's in it. Oh, got staples. All right. Now, one thing that we definitely needed to have were these rear springs, because the other ones are really clapped out. For the front, the ride quality is great. I wasn't concerned about changing the springs. So this just comes with these lift spacers. And I have no idea how that translates to a 3-inch lift. But we'll see what happens, huh? Oh, it came with the tube. Save that for later. Oh, now. Hey, help me. Help me understand what happens here. Okay. Ow, it hurts. Shocks for the rear. Mounting hardware for the rear shocks. There was something else in that. The blocks for the front. And springs. That's it. Oh, dear Lord. Here's the instructions for 77130, which is the 3-inch lift kit for Toyota 4Runner. 96 to 05. I can't read square boxes. It must be in Japanese or something. Pretty simple, shouldn't take that long. Anybody with hand tools should be able to do this quick, cheap lift kit on a weekend. In between, you know, mowing your grass and fighting off the peasants. I don't know. Let's get started. Help me. Help me. Oh, give me a hand. Ow. Nope. Yup.
Excuse you.
Excuse me. All right. I'm going to do one corner at a time. I'm going to start with the fronts because I think the fronts are going to be a little more difficult than the rears, and I want to get them done first because I just don't want it today. We'll get this up on a jack. Make sure you use a jack stand. Don't be a dummy like me. And it looks like it'll be pretty simple. I actually have someone helping me hold the camera. My pregnant wife is here. And since she is, there's going to be a little change in this one. I'm going to put these on. What? Oh, sorry. I can't hear you.
He thinks he's so... I said he thinks he's so funny. Could you not break my lug nuts, please?
Watch your toes. So what we got here is one of these things. It has one of these, and it's inside of one of these. So this is why I didn't have shocks for the front. I'm a dummy. It has struts in the front. So it looks like we could pull this bolt off right here. Pull these 3 bolts out right here. And then we should be able to do something and get that right out. Bolt that spacer on, and then hopefully this will drop down enough to just slide that right back in, and then that's the front lift done. We'll see. And I need wrenches for up here.
What do you need?
Probably a 14 or 15.
Just a whole, you want a whole set of wrenches?
I should have the 14 and the 15 out here.
Out here? I'm literally finding every size but a 14.
Sounds right.
Huh?
Sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah. Huh? Oh, yeah. What's that? Oh, you want to go up higher? Like up that way? Yeah. Okay. We'll take care of it. I kind of thought when I took these top bolts out, this would drop down and this would come right out. It didn't drop down, and that doesn't give me a lot of faith about getting this in and out easy. I mean, why would it?
Well, I got the hammer. You said you don't have any idea where the punch might be?
You got a hamburger? No, I do not, but...
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Well, fast forward to right now. I took all the bolts off of that strut and it did not come out, which means, unfortunately, I got to take that upper ball joint loose. And hopefully that'll give me enough room to wiggle things in and out. It probably would have told me this if I would have read the instructions.
Did you say you were going to break something on my truck?
That's an acute possibility. Hey, I need the clicky turner thing that works on this thing.
The clicky turner?
Yeah. 1/2 inch. Right there, sitting right there. 1/2 inch is the big one. 3/8 is the medium, and 1/4 inch is the small one.
You know what I meant.
You said what I heard me. Okay, so since we got to pop this upper ball joint loose, let's just do a quick little safety tip thing. I am going to put a bolt back in, or a nut back on up here to hold this spring assembly in, and then I'm going to hit this with a hammer, which should loosen this ball joint. When I do that, I'm going to leave this castle nut. They say that because it looks like a castle. I fought in your general direction. I'm going to leave that on so that when this breaks loose, all of this stuff shifts around. That nut will hold this from killing me in the face, and that nut should hold this from killing me in the chest area. And hopefully this just pops right off. Snip, snap, no problem. And then that will let us lower this down enough that way to get that thing out. No, it's totally safe.
It's not like my belly is right in the line of fire. Your daughter's gonna have to learn eventually.
My daughter's gonna be a mechanic sooner or later. I hope she's not one like me. Nailed it. Hasn't noticed?
Yep.
Ooh, that's got a little spring to it. A little spring.
It's a tiny baby Odin.
Help!
Could we not smash any more fingers today?
Garbage.
Did you break it?
It broke, yeah. I need it
10 millimeter.
Oh, oh, oh. So the trick to it was getting enough room to get that in and out. I just took this ABS sensor line loose with the 10 millimeter bolt on the top. But here's the big one that I missed, is this sway bar. Once you unbolt that, it lets everything move down out of the way. And that came right out. Now, this just goes right on top. You bolt it down with the stock bolts. And then these are gonna be your new mounting bolts here. And apparently you just put it right back in. That's how it works. That wasn't supposed to happen. You didn't see that. Or this. This is not an actual wrench. You are not supposed to pull on this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Put it back in. Well, it looks like when you put that spacer on, you can see here's the old bolt location, which would have went through this hole. But when you put the spacer on, it moves it over here so that they can stagger. Obviously, you can tell the why they did it. So now that strut is turned, which makes this become an issue. Should be able to just put kind of a long bar or a long screwdriver in there and turn that where it'll line up with that hole. So that's something to look out for. We'll see how it goes. Oh, Lord.
Is she tight?
Oh, Lord. No. Gonna have to compress the spring. Okay. Might want to change that. Okay, next problem. This will be try number 87B. You have to compress this spring in order to clock this to go back into its mount. But if you compress the spring while it's in the truck, it doesn't turn down here. This has a pigtail that sits in this groove, so you can't clock it here. It has to happen up here where the spring is flat. In order for that to happen, this whole spring assembly has to move opposite of this mount, which can't happen in the truck because these spring compressors are hitting that shock tower or strut tower. So what I did is I marked right here so that I know the direction this has to be facing. Sorry guys, let me move over. So I know which direction this has to be facing, and then just removed it back out of the car. I only had one nut started, so now I got to compress these enough where I can turn this to line the flat side up with that mark. Then we should be able to reinstall it. video real close. Now we just gotta get these spring compressors back off without dying.
You speed all this crap up anyway.
There it is, front lift installed, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So the only things that you have to do to get this in there is you have to break this upper ball joint. You need to take at least this top 10 millimeter bolt out to let this ABS line hang out of the way. That'll allow you to get this out. Then what I recommend is once it's out, bolt this spacer on, slide it back in, and then put a mark on this outside here, straight on, because that's where that lines up down here. Put a mark there, then pull this back out. Compress the spring enough where you can turn this, where this flat end lines up with that mark. Let your spring compressors go, put it back in. Reassembling this, oh, that's the other thing. You got to take this top nut off of the sway bar. That actually lets everything fall down out of the way. And then when you're reassembling, you're going to have to get another small jack and jack this lower control arm up. And then there's still going to be a pretty big gap here. I was able to use the sandwich clamp 300s here and just pull that together with my hands and then start this nut. But you could probably just use like a C clamp, or if you got some of the fancy vice grips that go like this, you could probably use those on there. But knowing what I got to do now, the next side will go a lot quicker. I'm going to snip over there real quick, get that all changed, and then we'll move to the back. I would say that the back is going to be simpler, but then I'm probably just jinxing myself. So let's get it done. Here's a pro tip for you. Sometimes when you're working on your cars, you got to get comfortable, you know what I mean? Just got to, oh yeah. Now we're ready to wrench. We'll actually catch you on the back. I'm just gonna knock this one out real quick. No problem. Well, here's where I have to admit that I'm kind of a dummy, because I just thought, well, you know, I'm putting this one in. Before I get into all that spring compressing and stuff, what if I turn it a couple of times and check all three of those bolt holes? And the first one I hit lined right up on the bottom. So I'm thinking that you don't have to compress the spring and turn it and do all that crazy stuff I did on the other side. You just have to think a little smarter than me. Check all three mounting locations, and one of them might come out just right. Maybe it was a fluke that this one came out right, but sure gonna save me a lot of time on this side. So there you go, my mistakes for everybody to see.
What you doing?
Just having a little coffee. Wink, wink. It's got a handy spot to jack the back up right here, and if you notice, you don't even have to line your jack up right if you're not scared. And there's nothing sketchy about that at all. Just a little wiggle.
Do I have the e-brake on?
I don't think the e-brake will matter when the back tires are off the ground.
That's accurate. Cut that.
Yeah, we'll definitely cut that part out right after I have some of this coffee. All right, viewers at home, can you guess what finger that was?
You're snapping down there?
You saw nothing. So, down here under the back of the truck, we lifted it up. Trust me, I did not use that sketchy jack lifting technique. I used it to get it up in the air, but I got jack stands under it. Those are the Harbor Freight collapsible jack stands, so we know we're safe. Now the lazy guy in me is really hoping that now that we got it on jack stands, we can jack the rear end up a little bit, remove the shocks. And once the shocks are removed, that'll let this rear end drop down enough where these springs can come out. Now there's no weight on this axle at all, it's hanging, and I can already move those springs a little bit. That gives me hope that this is going to be just as quick and easy as taking the shocks off, lowering the rear end, swapping out new springs, and then just the shocks are already off, putting the new shocks back on, and we're done. Here's to hoping. Whoever designed the shock mount on this from Toyota, tell you what, you need to go back, figure your life out before you design anything else. Because this top bolt is a bugger to get to, I'm telling you. Oh, whew. Shocks are still good though. Bonus. What we found when taking these shocks off, the easiest thing to do is to wedge yourself in there like a contortionist. Get a ratchet on that top bolt, and then don't even try to turn that ratchet. Just leave it on there and turn this shock housing until the ratchet bottoms out. And then get you some of these multi-tools. Just use the shock as the wrench, as the nut. It's the thing that I'm trying to say. I gotta open this. Just there we go. Okay. And then you really gotta just bend everything up really good. That's what you gotta do. Oh yeah, that moved. You gotta make noises. Oh yeah, that helps a lot. Mama. I didn't make that noise and you can't prove it. And don't worry about what that ratchet's wedged up against in there. It's nothing important, I assure you. Oh my Lord, this is a poor design. I'm gonna talk about poor designs. Maybe one day we'll change a starter on a 2007 Tundra V8. Swear to God. Uh-oh, I think I broke something. Oh no, the ratchet came off. Well, back under the truck. Wait a minute. Oh no. It broke. Even better. So basically what we found while taking these shocks off is if it breaks, that's good. Nice. Got my vitamin rust for the day. Make sure you take your multivitamin. Well, that happened. There's only one way to get a stuck nut out of a socket.
Ow, that was my foot. Throw it at your wife, that's how you get
Throw
it out?
it at your wife. Oh, right in
pregnant
my
wife.
arm, right in my armpit.
You know I'm gonna bruise, right?
Get in there deep. You never have to go to the eye doctor if you get enough dirt in your eye. Keeps everything cleaned out in there. You're all good.
Action.
Finally got the shocks out. These are the originals, or pretty close to it. You could tell because they have hieroglyphics on them. They still work pretty good, except for this one piece. It's totally fine. Now that we have the shocks loose though, hopefully we can just lower the rear end down and these springs will fall right out. And we won't have any trouble getting the ones that are longer back in.
Why do you keep saying that stuff?
I don't know. Wishful thinking. When you wish upon a car. Ah, fuck. Let's go. What's holding it? I could probably just pry on them and get them out.
You just have spring compressors.
I do have the spring compressors, but they should just drop right out, and I think it's the sway bar that's holding it in place.
Try again.
So I got the jack back under the rear end, just supporting it enough so that I could take these sway bars off and there's no tension on anything. And once we get these sway bars off, we'll let it back down, see how much room we get. If we don't get enough room, then I think we're just gonna go to spring compressors, call it a day. If you don't have to use spring compressors, don't use spring compressors. Try everything else first.
Why?
Because they're dangerous and they take a long time. You know, I ain't got time for all this
Spring
work,
compressing?
tools and springs and compressing nonsense.
You know, this tripod is wobbly, right?
Perfect. It's well used, well loved. It's like the only one that I really like. I'll have to get a better one.
Action.
Wait for it. Let it down a little more.
Not enough.
I don't think it was enough. Well, shoot.
Sir, you have stuff on your hand?
Good. My sweetheart. Well, you are doing pretty cool. Yes, you are so pretty. Oh, you're so pretty. Pretty girl. Oh no, I pet a dog. Here they all come. So now if you could just give me a hand and push down on the rear end right here, I should be able to pop this spring out.
Ready?
Mm-hmm. Booyah. Booyah chicka. Do your thing. It's out.
Throw that at my foot too?
Depends. You gonna keep being mean to me? I know I'm fragile. Old coil spring out, new coil spring to go in. There's quite a bit of difference. This thing's a monster. Hope we can get it in there.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Just a second.
Go.
I like to
Hey,
move it, move
what
it.
did I say? Go.
I think you should
Poopy?
move it, move it.
Out.
I'm just gonna beat you up. Okay.
Maxine, there is no drinking beverages in this house.
Hopefully we can push that down far enough to get this spring in. Because that is quite a bit taller. Bye, spring.
A lot of springs to spring in.
Well, it's got a lot of springing to do, for sure. I got a thing in my eye. All right, let's see if we can do the old push down on the trick, huh?
Okay, ready?
It's not gonna work at all, but
Nope, not even a little bit.
okay. Can you push on the top so that when you slip off, you don't murder me in the face? Yeah. Definitely gonna have to compress this spring. Ain't gonna happen.
Action.
This is number 2 of the I'm too lazy to use spring compressors technique. I'm gonna try to just push down on the axle enough to get that spring in there. Like a glove. I don't think anything's quite ready to break yet, so we're still good. Oh yeah, not even close.
Does anything feel like it's going to break? That one
What one?
on the inside, it looks a little tight. This way.
Ow, that hurt.
There's the sunshine boy. This is the puppy that we had. A teeny tiny itty bitty Odin. Did you wake up and choose violence? Anarchy? Gingerly. I feel like that's more dangerous.
Well, there is not an easy way to do this without spring compressors. But we all knew this was going to happen from the beginning.
Is it stuck? Is it seriously fucking stuck?
Everything is garbage. Life is poop. Everything's stuck. Okay, one spring in, no problem at all. Now let's go myrtlate the other side. Hey! Is it all the way out? Nailed it. Not quite, because this still isn't where it needs to be. It's got to be rotated, but I can't rotate it with this in place. So I got to get this spring out, or this compressor out, and then I got to try to figure out a way to rotate the spring. And I'm just going to do that by being very violent with it. You are garbage. Alright, now we got to turn that to get that pigtail in that hole right there. And the way I'm going to do that is... Nope, that didn't work. So,
Hold
I'm
on.
just going to take this job.
I'm not ready.
Figure out a way to get it in there like that. Clamp it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to... Hey! Hey! Look at that. Installed. I charge by the hour. $99.99 an hour. Plus inflation.
You're getting a Little Caesars pizza for doing this. That's it. So.
Done. Deal and deal. Shake. Little Caesars and a cold snack.
Cold snack?
Yeah.
Ooh, ice cream.
Cold. I was thinking an ice cold glass of something
Adult juice.
special. There you go. Adult juice. I like adult juice.
So you can get
Wait a
chocolatey
minute.
wasted.
Wait a minute. No, not adult juice. Can't use adult. How about adult beverage? Can't use adult juice. All right. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. I think we're done.
No, we gotta put springs on.
Hook these back up and then put the shocks on.
Or shocks on. Yeah, we just put the springs on.
And then
Pregnancy brain.
golden. Stop it. And then I think we're golden.
Do it faster. We got a dinner date in 45 minutes.
You got it.
And I want to take my truck.
Dinner date.
Also, you have not fixed my air conditioning.
Face.
And my toe hurts. It's right there.
My toe hurts. That's there, and that's right there. But I need these two things. They go like
Right there
here.
is one of them.
And then there's a nut that goes on right there. I need that nut.
Where's the nut?
Well, if I knew that, I gotta get a shock in this bad mamma jamma.
I like it.
Now we gotta run around the yard and find out where all the rubber bushings are because the dog stole them. Hey!
Not my little angel baby Odin.
He would never. All right, once I have those, I can start installing this bed.
Oh, I already, one sec. Did you make sure to clean all the drool off of them before you put them on? I'm kneeling on the pavement. My good leggings.
Keep on keeping on. Well, that went on no problems at all. I can give you one little tip. Don't be a dummy like me. Just start with the spring compressor. It'll go a lot. It'll go right. I'll bet you if you read the instructions, it probably says use a spring compressor. Anyway, let's see what happened. Now keep in mind, the front of this, we didn't change the springs, so the springs won't settle. They are where they're gonna be. The back, they're probably gonna settle a little bit, but where we had 3 feet, now we have 40 inches. And if you count, that is 4 inches of lift in the back. That is probably gonna settle a 1/2 inch or an inch. So it's 4 inches now. We'll say in a week it'll be 3 inches. Let's see what happened with the front. We have 3 foot. That gave us 2.5 inches of lift in the front. So they call it a 3-inch lift. You get 2.5 in the front, and you're probably gonna get 3 in the back after those springs settle. I'm pretty happy with that. So the one thing I hate about lifts on these trucks sometimes is when the back is lower than the front. And it looks like on this one, we're actually gonna get a little more lift on the back than in the front. I think that's gonna look a lot better. Overall, it makes this truck look totally different. All right, we got the lift kit done. My camera batteries died, so fast forward, right note, rewind a little, forward, no back, fast forward. Okay, now it's right now. We drove the truck. It rides great. It got rid of that harsh hammering in the back where it was on the bump stops. We had a little issue with it wanting to be spongy a little bit on one side, and then we got home and realized I didn't put the anti-sway bar on one side in the back. It was a long day, okay? You can't blame me for that. But the lift turned out great for the price. I think it was like, what, 300 bucks?
Yeah.
300 bucks, 3-inch lift.
Don't check
Do it
my
in a day
feet.
with hand tools. You don't got to change any brake lines. You don't got to change any things or stuffs or nothing. We'll probably have it aligned just because that little bit of lift will change the geometries on the front. But cheap lifted 4-wheel drive. Looks great. Okay, I'm going to walk you through my process of doing air conditioning, and it's not going to be what you would expect. Really, an air conditioning system is pretty basic. And we know all the parts are in there, so we know that it just needs a charge and for all the electronical things to work, and then this thing should work. Now, the first thing I do is I just take one of these gauges that you get at the old parts store. This can is empty from long ago. And I'll hook the gauge on and just see if there's a charge in the system or not. Remember, these gauges still work. Even though there's no can hooked up to it, you just don't want to pull on the trigger there because you'll let all your refrigerant out. So we had this running, or not running, don't matter, it'll still have pressure. I hooked this up to the low pressure side of the system and there was nothing. When we got this truck, the whole top of the engine was disassembled. There were no heads on it, no nothing. So I'm hoping somebody just broke that coolant line loose somewhere and then snugged it back up and they let all of the coolant out of the coolant system. But let me tell you, refrigerant for these things ain't cheap. So take it from me, you don't want to just put refrigerant in it and then find out it's got a really bad leak, because that's going to cost you so much money. So I got one of these cheap things from Hobo Freight and one of these cheap things from Hobo Freight, and all you do is hook air up to this and hook this up to this, and then you do this with this and it pulls a vacuum on the system. Once you pull a vacuum on the system, you close these valves up here and it's just going to monitor it and let you know if you got a leak or not. That's the only reason why I ever use this thing, is just to pull vacuum on the system. There's a couple reasons you want to do that. Obviously, of course, one is to check for leaks so you don't waste refrigerant. The second reason you want to do that is if you did break open a line or at any point in time expose this system to atmosphere, it's going to have moisture in it, or it's going to create moisture when the ambient air mixes with the refrigerant. You want to get all of that ambient air out for your system to work its best. Simple way to do that, cheap tools, pull a vacuum on it, and it'll take all that ambient air and any leftover moisture out. Then you can proceed from there. If it doesn't have a leak, we're just gonna see if we can fill it up. Another nice thing about pulling a vacuum is, I don't know if you've ever dealt with this, they got that low pressure cutoff switch so that it won't turn on if you don't have enough pressure in the system. Well, that can make it a bugger to just fill your system up with one of these, because unless that pump starts turning, it's not gonna pull this stuff in. And you can fight with it, and you gotta rev the motor, and you gotta call your mom, and you gotta cuss at people. Well, if you pull a vacuum and it holds it, then the first time you pull the trigger on this thing, that vacuum is gonna do a vacuum thing and pull some refrigerant in and get you started. That's about all there is to it. It's super simple. Like I said, I already checked this thing and there is no pressure in the system. All of the controls on the dash seem to work. The lights do lighting things and stuff. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull a vacuum on it, see if it holds a vacuum, and if it holds a vacuum, we'll go from there. Here we go. You have to excuse the loud noise that this thing makes. But what you want to do is get your high side connected, your low side connected, and then you open these, and then you're going to start pulling mercury. I'm already up past 20. Looks like about 21. I'm going to go ahead and let that pull some mercury for a while, pull a vacuum for a while. Make sure the system's clean, and then I'm going to close these, leave these open, let it sit for a while and make sure that gauge doesn't lose any vacuum. And that'll let you know that your system is nice and tight. Okay, we pulled a vacuum on this system, and then before I close these valves, take the vacuum pump off, plug this back in so that this is a closed system now, and then reopen these. Now, if this system isn't leaking anywhere, then all you're testing right now is your AC system for leaks. And we pulled just a little over 20. What does that look like? 22. And it's been sitting there for a little bit at 22, and that has not dropped at all. So that tells me that this system doesn't have a significant leak. Actually, it's doing really good. From my experience, it probably doesn't have any leak at all whatsoever. Cross your toes. So now that we've established it doesn't have a leak, we can close these off here and there and disconnect them, and that will leave the vacuum in the system. And we'll just go ahead and start the car up, turn the air conditioning on max, and start pouring refrigerant in it, and we should have air conditioning. Now when you go to put this stuff in, it has instructions all over it. You just want the car running and your air conditioning on maximum FI. That pump just kicked on. We're definitely getting up into the green. The pump is on. There's penguin farts blowing out of the dash. As long as that Schrader valve seals up good, that's air conditioning fixed. Well, baby, how's it working?
Amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys
Ice.
at home feel that?
Freaking cold.
That is ice cold air conditioning. Oh my goodness. All right, that is ice cold air conditioning in a 97 Toyota thingy. Now, I'm gonna make a confession. I checked that Schrader valve on the low pressure side and it's leaking. The cap has an O-ring on it. I tightened it down tight. checked around that. There was no leaks. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this will stay charged for a long time. We'll get our money's worth out of that refrigerant. If not, no big deal. We know where the leak is now. If it does leak out, we can replace that Schrader valve. Do the same process and we'll be good to go. But this thing is making my toes cold. It is so cold. This has better air conditioning than my Caprice.
I know it does. It's so good.
That's crazy.
97 4runner will forever and always be my favorite Toyota Voltage.
Yeah, these third gen 4runners are amazing.
Mind you, this is our third that we've had. And we always buy another one.
Gotta love it. Man, that is ice cold. Well, speaking of ice cold, if you guys like old ice cold air conditioning on a hot day, tell your friends to subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Click that bell. Give me a like. I don't do this for money, but I just enjoy getting the comments. It's nice to talk to some of you people out there that have the same passions about old junk cars. Alright people, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, or if you did learn something, it wasn't the wrong thing. And we'll catch you next time on Junk Bucket Garage.